because I don't want to upload all that extra garbage in the middle.
Go.
Okay, so taking you through the final exam review. Guys, hush. Okay, so first off, I've got this page. You'll have to kind of search them out because I've got them all out of order. Name the transformations, find the vertex, and graph. Transformations to this is it's left 3, down 2. -3, -2 is the vertex. This is the graph. There's the table. The main thing on this one is you can graph these in the calculator. And if you've got the calculator, the key thing to remember is that this button that's over here next to the 9 is where you can find that absolute value information. So if you just add a page to your document, go there on the graphs, and push that, not that, sorry, push the, escape from that, push this button, go ahead and put in the absolute value. You can type in all that absolute value stuff. You can have these graphs, you can pull up the tables, you can get it quick. The vertex for this one, it's quadratic, so it's -b over 2a, and then whatever your output is for that, not a big deal. The y-intercept for the equation, remember if it's in standard form, it's just the c value is the y-intercept. The axis of symmetry is the b value of your vertex, or the -b over 2a, the same thing, the x value of your vertex. Maximum or minimum on these is going to be determined by whether or not you have a positive a value. A positive a value means it opens like this, so it's a minimum. A negative a value opens like this, so it's a maximum. On the back side of this page, I didn't do this one exactly. The interval notation is your is the less than or equal to. This is going to be x is less than -6 or x is greater than or equal to 3. The set notation is the one that's the parentheses, the brackets, and all that kind of stuff. So this would be parentheses -3, comma, 2 with the bracket, and that's the domain. I won't bother with the range. Range is the same kind of stuff. It just runs bottom to top. Make sure you don't mix them up. Solving the systems of equations, you put these either as a matrix, or I know some people have been remembering doing the menu 3-2, the numerical solve or solve system of equations or whatever. Just make sure you make it 3 equations with 3 variables and you keep your variables straight. That'll get you through these if you have any of them on there. System of inequalities by graphing. Again, why would you bother doing a lot of this stuff? Seriously, type this into the calculator, graph them, and it's going to be the overlap. This is going to be a multiple choice test, so it's going to be all about matching it up to what it says on the graph. Okay, again, you're going to have to search to find this, but these are inequalities. You just solve. Just remember that if you divide by a negative at any point, you have to flip that inequality symbol and pick the right one that's going to match up. The answers for these, I believe I have posted. Translation on this is up to. You should be able to get that by comparing the answers, but just real quick, that's a k value. That's +2, it's outside. This one is this down here. The -4 means it's shifted 4 to the right. The negative means it's flipped upside down. So there's the difference on there. Write an equation for the horizontal translation. If you're moving horizontally, it's inside. That ought to get you to at least 50-50 if you can just remember that. On the flip side of this page is something that looks like the front, maybe, I don't know. If it's absolute value, remember you do what's in the absolute value, just like a set of parentheses, and then apply it. You should be able to type these in on the calculator if it says anything about evaluate. Solving these, what I would probably do if you were stuck and couldn't remember what to do, is to graph this half and then graph this half and see where they cross. It won't lead you to any extraneous if you do that. So down here on this, the b + 5 and the 2b + 3, you can graph those separately. They will cross at that -8/3. Or no, they won't cross at that -8/3. They will cross at 2. So you'd have to guess at whether it had an extraneous. But, I mean, it should at least get you better options on the test if you can't remember how to do them. Solving for the inequalities, we already talked about that. Did we do this page? Yes, okay. On this one on the front, this is like old school solving. I mean, if you don't know how to do that, that's kind of sad. Solving with the absolute value or simplifying with the absolute value, again, you can type these into the calculator. Solving these, again, you can kind of graph this side, see where they come up. It's just that if you graph them, you will not get the extraneous solution. Really, you should be splitting them into like a positive and negative. So x + 6 is equal to 2x, and x + 6 is equal to -2x. Then go back and check your answers in the original. That's how you can tell if they're extraneous. In the inequality form, did I do interval notation wrong? I guess I did. This, I guess, is set notation. So that other page, you'll have to ignore what I said earlier in the video. This would be the interval. Graphing absolute value functions. Using the calculator is no different than by hand because we're giving you the calculator for the whole test. Domain and range. If there's separate points, you list the x values, you list the y values. If it's a list of points like this, list the x values, list the y values. Mapping is the ovals. So if you have a repeated number, you only put it once, and you just do like more than one arrow to the same number. Solving these things, again, like I did it mathematically, you can probably do it just graphically. This one doesn't even make sense, so I just quit on it because you can't have an absolute value that's going to be smaller than a negative. So, yeah. Yeah, we talked about that. On this one, we're factoring. It's like you factor out a GCF, or you do what adds together to make this, or no, multiplies together to make this, adds together to make this, multiplies to make this, adds to make this. And this one's difference of squares. We didn't do so hot at difference of squares, so you might check into that. Or you might just make sure you know how to FOIL so that you can check the answers and FOIL those answers back together, see if they work out. Solving these, again, it's like factoring, get your two answers. You can also do quadratic formula on this, but you got to remember, this is a B value, there is no C value. This one, this would be a C value, there is no B value, if you can't remember how to factor. This just says factor using the MAD, so I did just factor. You can check those answers online. I posted it, but again, if you can't factor using the MAD method, make sure you know how to FOIL them together to check and see if that's the right answer. Quadratic formula, just remember negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Once you get it set up, you should be able to tell from the answers whether or not they're going to be right. Remember, discriminant is just the b squared minus 4ac. This one comes up 1,000. It's two real solutions. This one comes up negative 256. It's two imaginary. If any of them come up 0, it's one solution. This one, which point is the solution of this system? You just sub these in until you figure out which one is correct. On this one, all this vertex and whatever stuff, you could seriously just graph that and find most of them. Same thing with this one. You can graph this and find it. Although this one's in vertex form, that's 2, 5. It's not real difficult because it's minus h plus k, and the vertex is hk. So it's the opposite of that value and then just that value. Determine if they open up or down. Again, that's the same thing with maximum or minimum. So this one would be a minimum. It would open going upwards. This one would have a max. It would open going downwards. It looked like that. The only thing I have to say is be careful on these vertex form ones. Again, if I had the calculator and I was trying to do this quick, I would graph this, and then I would graph the equations that they give me in vertex form. Whichever ones have the exact same graph, exact same table, those are the ones that are the right answers. All right, that should be the whole thing, or at least enough of the whole thing to get you through the test. Good luck.